Good evening and welcome. My name is Taylor Kingman, President of the Board of Trustees for San Angelo ISD. I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's Preagenda board meeting, as well as those who will be watching the recording online or on our public access channel. Today is June 8th. All items on tonight's agenda have been posted as required by state law, and most items will be discussed tonight and voted upon at our regular board meeting. As a board, our work includes setting goals, hearing reports from our superintendent, approving budgets, contracts, personnel items, making policy decisions for the district. Please keep in mind that this is a meeting of the board held in public, not a meeting of the public. These proceedings are recorded and will become part of the district's permanent record. To help us maintain a clear recording, please refrain from speaking while others have the floor, and please silence your cell phones. Thank you for being here and for your support of SASD. We do have a quorum. Ms. Gardena said she would not be able to attend. Let me know today she will not be able to attend. And we'll begin with our first item on the agenda, which are our pledges. So if everyone would please stand. All right, we do have one person signed up for public comment. It's Jamal Schumpert, and the topic is innovative learning spaces, central waterline reroute, and HISD Medicaid.
How y'all doing today, board? Jamal Schumpert. I had a few suggestions. I know it's a little late, but some of these things I think will help increase enrollment for sure and community support. I know they sound a little crazy, but I have a reason for suggesting them. One of these things is a mini race bumper car track. You're like, why would I suggest that? Well, one, it'll bring kids excitement into their school, but most of all, we have an aviation mechanics program that's being ran through Angelo State. Any type of mechanics, any type of racing cars gets these kids into those mechanics. Because if you're a racer, you got to know how to fix your engine. You done blew plenty of pistons, I promise. That is what you would call the beginning stages, 7th, 8th grade. I wouldn't say 6th, 5th grade, maybe 4th grade, but for those other kids to get them more engaged, and then to bring excitement to your school. Beyond that, you can also double it, build an extra security fence so that you can run your own little bumper car and make profit, make money, help support programs. Another suggestion is a movie theater production lab. I think this would be hugely beneficial for our West Texas culture and putting it out there into the national market. Beyond that, every kid wants to be a YouTuber, influencer. They don't have nowhere to go except for the school. The school built those production labs. Not only could they help influence them to be YouTubers or creators or movie creators, but it also helps the other parts of that industry, like the camera operators, the editors. So it's a full pathway to get these kids ready for life, the new life. The traditional pathways, the standard pathways and standard electives, I've looked at them, they're very minimal. We're going into a whole new age of technology in which these kids will have to have multiple discipline skills, multiple, not just one. And we're coming out of that society where singularity and homogeneousness is going to rule the workplace. You're going to be multifunctional in the workplace. Another thing, also I'm a historian. Imagine if you could have a kid who edits the video, another kid who shoots the video, another kid who's making the questions, and another kid who's asking the questions, all to do history, oral history of this entire area, the region, not just San Angelo. I think that's important to capture. Y'all have a very unique culture here, that's why. I have 22 seconds left. I really wanted to say, Mr. Dendel, I understand how you feel about your school burning down. Quite a few black people, my grandma, all of them, their schools burned down. Nobody really cared, and I know you cared about it. So I wanted to tell you, hey, you're not in it alone. I understand. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move on with board updates and reports. And first, we have a bond construction update from Mr. Lopez in Park Hill.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, members of the board, I am pleased to give you your 2023 or 2025 bond update. As you see every time, the project timelines are staying on schedule according to our original timeline. The detailed timeline has not changed since then either. We added the water line, which is now under construction at Central High School, so that was one of the few changes on this detailed schedule, but I've got some pictures of that for y'all in the future. Crockett Elementary is moving along quickly. They're working on painting and finish work. I've got pictures on the right there. You can see the only thing missing really for the cafeteria was the windows, and they were waiting on those to be delivered, and they showed up today. So I was potentially going to talk about the one thing that we're waiting on, but they're no longer waiting on it, and they're still planning on having Crockett ready for students by August 1st, students and teachers. So end of July is what Lee Lewis is confidently saying. You can see photos of the exterior work and brick, and they're actually starting on drives and approaches on the outside over at Crockett. There's some accent walls and paint touch-up going on. And then McGill is progressing smoothly as well. They've got their utility work. They're building up the pad for the new additions. You can see on the left there, they're actually digging some of the concrete footings and prepping for some of the concrete foundations. Glenn Middle School is moving on schedule as well. We're finalizing the construction documents that'll go to Lee Lewis for bidding in June, and hopefully we'll be coming back in July to get a GMP from Lee Lewis. And then Lakeview will also be coming back in July for a GMP, so you'll have a lot of your facilities going into construction in August. And then Central High School, it is actually under construction since the water line is moving forward. And that's one of the great things about having the CMR already on board, is that they're able to start doing some of that work. I know y'all have got the approval of the guaranteed maximum price later on today, but everything is within budget, and this keeps us moving on schedule, the fact that the water line relocation has begun. Oh, looks like I promised pictures, and I didn't get the pictures of the water line being relocated in there. But if you drive by, you can see that they've dug up the route, and they've got pipe in, and they're working on covering the pipe up. And so they're actually ahead of schedule already, just barely starting a little over a week ago. So a lot of exciting things happening across the district. All right, any questions?
No. I remember where the water was going.
Okay. Yeah, the existing water line went underneath some of the buildings, and this is being rerouted through the parking lots to where you'd no longer have an active city water line under your existing buildings.
I just want to, I've had several people over the last couple of weeks ask me about project timelines and stuff, and the dashboard actually being on the website has been very helpful. Good. So I just wanted to say thank you to your group that got that going, because the fact that, and it may be our group too, so thanks to our people as well.
They did help, yeah.
But the fact that that dashboard is there for people to see has been very, it answers a lot of questions a lot faster just sending that link than as opposed to going through everything else, so thank you.
That's great.
Lots of activity on all the sports fields too. So yeah.
Yeah. You drive around town. There's a lot going on.
Any other questions for Mr. Lopez?
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. Dr. Brandon, budget update. You can tell us we're on budget and on time as well?
Dr. Keenan, Dr. Moran, Board of Trustees. We just wanted to, being June, we touched on the budget and some considerations in May. We're going to talk tonight mostly about employee compensation considerations. No decisions tonight, but as we move into July and we kind of tie some of those together, moving into August when the budget will be formally adopted by the board. We are in round 2 of House Bill 2. Most of those raises going out last year to teachers, 5+ years, $5,000, and 3 to 4 year teachers, $2,500. And then you can kind of see some of the other areas that were slated for increases. The basic cost allotment went out in the raises that the board approved for paraprofessional, manual trades, all the other jobs within the district. Special education was a slight increase for testing. We have a few of those, you'll see that in just a minute, that will roll into year 2 for those increases. Here, just a quick look at property values. And we've talked before about how the property values grew until we hit the 23 mark. And then we began to see the increases, which is good for our property owners, but increases in the homestead exemption began to drive those property values back down. So you see 6.5, 6.6, and at the moment, the possibility of those being slightly higher at $7 billion. We won't have the official certified values from the CAD until July 25th. Quick look at tax rate comparison over the last 7 years. We see that falling for most of those years and then remaining steady in our M&O tax rate. When we look in the INS, certainly that dropping as well until we hit our 2025 bond. So we do have the tax rate there for the bond. And then just looking at student enrollment, this has been our biggest topic of discussion over this past 2 years at least. You see the enrollment change, and then our 25-26, where that went from being 240 students the year before, right at 2%, the jump almost double there, double for 536 students, over 4%. So just looking out into the future for next year, the possibility of that being 11,800 with a drop of 423, hoping that that will level and not be quite as high as this past year. Student attendance, same way since COVID, we've had those conversations. We see slight drops as we have gone through the last few years. As we look at the end of the 25-26 school year, right at 93%, slightly lower than 24-25. Another look at the House Bill 2 required expenditures. We know in 25-26 what those increases were. So we did see that $6 million influx of money from legislation, but all of that earmarked. By the time we actually paid all the benefits across the district, we actually spent more than what the legislation sent out. We've talked a little bit about revenue considerations, all things remaining fairly equal within our local revenue, but seeing the shortfalls with the drop in student enrollment in the state funding. You see those drops, 4 million, $500,000, and then almost 800,000 in the different tiers of the foundation school program, which are directly tied to student enrollment. And then overall, looking at a $4 million deficit going into this next school year. So once we kind of have an idea of what that is, then we talk about staffing. We've got all of our budgets have come back in, and Mrs. Flores is compiling those, looking at capital outlay, and then for this evening's discussion, employee compensation considerations. Part of that being health insurance. Employee health insurance is going up 7%. So per employee, that's $37 for our TRS Active Care Primary. This past year, let's see if we got that number. They $479 this past year, and so there was a slight increase for every employee over that. So this year, that would be a $37 a month increase. Approximately $450 for the year. So we've talked about the reduction in staffing, trying to mimic the curve with student enrollment. You've seen the chart with a reduction of 89 positions, approximately 4.8%, a savings and expenditures of $5 million. We kind of looked at the different job families across the district where those have come from. And then if we tie that back to the conversation about employee compensation, I've just a couple of ideas to start with. On the left side, you see a 2% highlighted in yellow. What would a 2% general pay increase look like versus an insurance supplement that the district has done in the past, a $1,000 paid in December? Let's talk a little bit about the positives and negatives of each scenario. Certainly the 2% pay increase, lost the screen. There we go. The 2% pay increase, they're almost the same number. If you look at the very bottom right-hand corner of each chart, $2 million. But knowing that the one on the left is year over year. Once it's approved and adopted, then that will happen every year moving forward. The one strength, I guess, or pro, I would say, in the consideration of the insurance supplement of $1,000. Every employee, we know it's going to cost them $450 more just to pay the employee health insurance. So we cover that, and then it would provide a little extra on top of that in December when we know it's appreciated, I think, in that month particularly. Then kind of the beige, I guess you'd call that almond, that's what has to be paid from the catch up from House Bill 2. Those are the remaining teachers that are moving from a second-year teacher that's moving to year 3, the additional funding to get to $2,500, and then our 4-year teachers that are moving to their 5th year, moving to where we ensure that they got a $5,000 raise. You see that there are 113 teachers that affects for a total of $162,000. You see what that would be. We've given you the families and the count in each one of those families. Teacher family, I went ahead and grouped that in the blue block just so you could kind of see 887 teachers total. And then you can see in a total capacity how that's affected both in the 2% and in the 1,000. You can see the greatest benefit certainly is in our manual trades and our paraprofessionals, nearly 600 employees. On the 2%, you can see where that's just over 310,000, and then in the 1,000 supplement, a little over 600,000. Questions about the charts?
Are you going to send us this?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
on Friday Facts or something? We'll
Yeah,
look at
I can send it this next Friday, and any questions that you have before then, I can answer them within the same document.
Yeah, that'll work.
There's a couple more, how's it affect the bottom line? So when we look at our early calculations of reduction in payroll, so our payroll for 25-26 we saw was 112 million. And then that 5 million reduction in the 89 staffing positions, we see that drop to 107. But then when we take the number of students accounted for and potential decreased membership, that's where we see the reduced revenue and then the 4 million deficit. We also have that outlier with the capital outlay. We have the buses, the $1 million in buses that was approved in October of 25, we still have not taken possession of. So if they come in July, they would be on this year's. If we don't get those till after September 1, that's why they're reflected here, just in case. That could drop $1 million if we were to take possession of those buses in July. We just haven't heard back. It's really close to when we'll have them on site. So anything that we do with employee compensation would be on top of where we're starting with the deficit.
So these numbers are with everything flat, or with the 5% decrease across programs, and then a flat rate at the moment.
Yes, sir.
So that does not include either of the things you discussed on the slide before.
It does not.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a good thing you will see, though, you never know, right, till we get there, but when we do the, on the 15th, when we go through the finance discussion, you know, being in the 9th month of the school year, we would normally have 75% expenditures, and we're running about 69%. And so some of our largest categories of expenditures are running 5 to 6% under budget. So that's very positive. And so we'll see, you know, a lot of we have some expenditures that pick up, you know, in the last 2 summer months, but a lot of those, we know what staffing is, right, for July and August. Our student travel, which is expensive during the school year, slows down in those 2 months. So I think when we see that on the 15th, we can talk about that a little bit, all of it kind of going into the same conversation, but I think you'll see some positives in that report.
When we have that discussion on the 15th, I think it's gonna be hard, at least for me, I won't speak for the whole board, to adopt any compensations plans till we have a real firm idea of exactly where we're ending up, other than the buses, for this year's budget. You know what I mean? We need to know if we're 2 million, we 4 million, we 6 million. I mean, like where the deficit is
Right. this
year before we can go and make an educated decision to approve the budget for next year. Because I know we are reducing, not by firing anyone, but just by attrition, to match this year's student enrollment. But if next year's students' enrollment is down again, we'll be in the exact same situation. And I know I'm assuming this budget here is based on 11,800.
Yes, sir.
So that, I mean, I understand that we are accounting for it based on in the budget, but I think we need to have as good as we can get prediction of where we're going to be on our final deficit for this year, so we can have an educated discussion on what we can offer our employees for next year, knowing where we ended up this year.
Right. Yeah, definitely an early conversation, right? As we move through the end of June, then we get to July, before we move into August during our workshop, we'll have all 12 months captured. We'll have the 13-month out there with some outlying POs that may be paid, or it may be rolled forward depending on the date. But we'll be a lot tighter as we move into the first week of August.
And then I guess the other thing for me is the cost that we can reliably say that with realignment of elementary schools will be not part of the 27-28 budget. So those costs that we can the principal at Bowie, the AP, the nurse, like those costs that we know will not be cost in 27, 28, where that number hits is important when we're trying to adopt a budget that is responsible for the future. And so making sure, I know we've talked about it like we've talked about what those numbers are in theory, but I think having as firm a number as we can helps us understand what we can be comfortable with as far as adopting a deficit budget if we know where the light is at the end of the tunnel 1 year later. It's a lot easier to tell our employees, hey, we're going to adopt this deficit budget, and we have been frugal for years, and we have a fund balance to do this for you because we know we can replicate it 2 years down the road without having to let people go when we don't want to, or like when they don't want to. And so I think that's a really important. We don't want to get into a situation where we can't afford what we've promised.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's certainly the main reason for the two differences between a 2% versus a supplement. Even in the supplement, and I know you've done it in the past, if we were in a tight budget and there was a higher loss of student enrollment than anticipated, that would not have to be paid. We put it in the budget in hopes of, continuing, but, if we saw those numbers, then the board wouldn't have to be committed to that into the future as far as payroll. So.
Dr. Braden, is there, in the past, if I remember correctly, the insurance, it was divided into two 500. It was in December and in May. Why is it one amount now? Is there a difference?
It could be both. Yeah, it could be 500 each.
Okay. Because that, and tell me if I'm wrong, when a teacher gets paid at the end of the month, that $1,000 in December would not be a separate check. It's in with their salary.
It is.
So then you take taxes, and so I'm haven't done this. I'm wondering if more would be taken out if it was 500 then, or maybe it's the same. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be really close.
Yeah.
Depending on their pay, but.
Yeah, I think that, and I don't know if that's decided, I think that's something to look at, the 500, just because 500 at Christmas is great, 500 at the year to help with summer is a great thing, and then you kind of budget accordingly. The 2%, and this is just me speaking, I know we're not voting on this right now, we're just talking,
right.
But I think from the past, I think, I don't think a 2%, we're not going to say a raise. We would just say pay increase, because a 2% raise and a check might be $34. And in the past, teachers were like, they say we got a raise, it's $34. And I know some were grateful, some were, so for me, I'm just going to really look at that and think about, what's going to be. And when you said you don't have to pay this, would a teacher know that before the school year started? Like, you're not going to get 500s at Christmas, and you wouldn't.
No, it would be like when we passed Prop A, and we gave a bonus. Right, I assume that's what you're alluding to. Yeah. We gave a bonus to employees after the original Prop A. When that passed, we were able to give people. We gave people bonuses, but we didn't we voted actually, I think in November, end of November or early December, to give that bonus.
So an employee would know that for sure. It wouldn't be
right. We would put that in our beginning of the year employee letter that goes out, right. Dependent upon what we can't do is do the opposite. We can't not budget for it and then try to give it.
Yeah. Can you go? I just want to speak on this. Can you go back to the enrollment slide of 2011? Where was it?
sorry.
2019? 18, yes. So that was kind of a long time ago. And I just want to say this. We really talk about how our enrollment has dropped, and we've talked a lot about how families aren't having as many children, and that is a factor of truth. But I also want, and we want, and we've said this before, we want our schools so amazing that you want to come. But if we go back to 2018 and people see this number and they go, oh, I think it's real important in 2018 to know, and Farrah can correct me, we didn't have homeschool. Did we have, homeschooling that was so popular now on the internet, that kids could do that?
Well, it was pre-COVID. There was homeschooling, but it was pre-COVID, which COVID changed a lot of things.
Yes. So we have that. We have co-ops now. So there's a lot, so many, to me,
Changes, yeah.
elements from 2018 to 2027. And I don't want people to think it's because, people aren't, it's because people aren't having as many children, but it's not just because they don't want to go to SAIC. There's so many different options out there in the world today. And I hope I speak for all of us, we want every parent to do what's best for their child, hands down. But we also want our enrollment to increase, because when they have a choice, we want us to be their number one choice.
That's right.
So when you look at that 3,000 difference, no, there's many, many, many factors in that. Yes, it was before COVID. No one was doing, and even now, I hear children say, especially our high school, well, I can do that at home. But we all know that being in the classroom with the master teacher is the place to be. So we have to work on that. We have to make it where that's where you want to be. So I just wanted to touch on that, so when the public sees that, I think sometimes we tend to be tunnel vision and think it's because of this, and there's probably 15 factors that lead to these two numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. President and Board, just a reminder also that if we look at the attendance rates, and I think, Dr. Brandon, you had a slide about the attendance rates perhaps somewhere in that. We have students, but we have a very poor attendance rate. And if you look at the attendance rates prior to COVID and then post-COVID, you'll notice that that's a struggle for us as a district. If we get that attendance rate up a percentage point, it comes out to, 800,000 or more for our district. And so the importance of being at school, we're really stressing this with our staff, even if it's a field trip, preserving our instructional time and making sure that we're not missing school for reasons that aren't productive. But to our families, the importance of their child being at school, you can see there's a marked difference after COVID. And that's not just us. I think there was a shift in just how easy it was not to go or to make up or whatever, but being at school is so important. And so some of this we can fix internally if we'll retool and get back to where we were.
Okay. Well,
Any other questions for Dr. Brandon before we let him get off the hot seat?
yeah, thoughts and ideas. That's my last questions and thoughts. So as we move into July and August, whatever you think about, right? Happy to do any type of scenarios that you might want to change or think and see. And then like Dr. Kingman said, as we get closer to the end of the year budget, we'll see those numbers tighten up. We'll have a really good picture of where we are both with revenue and expenses.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brandon. All right, next we have an energy update, and Scott Goodwin's going to come help us with that.
So I'm going to start the conversation off real quick, just as
Even better, Dr. Brandon's going to help Scott go.
a couple of introductions. Certainly, as we've moved, and I think all the board members were here when Synergistic was the company that was seeing the energy management for the district, and we felt like we could produce the same effect, was our hope. And so we were paying about a $250,000 a year contract. And then we transitioned out of the contract. We were fortunate. Steve Van Hoosier and Robert Rump were able to remain in the district and carry some of that same ideas and concepts into SAISD. And so as we've transitioned there into our two new energy specialists, they've been able to carry that same work forward. So I feel like they have some good news for you. And so I'm going to turn it over to them and let them present.
Good evening, everybody. So cost, conservation, and comfort is what we focus on. And I'll discuss how we control and maintain some of those things as we go through these. So this is just a snapshot of the last 10 years. And there's quite a bit of fluctuation. Some of that is COVID, but if you look at like the last 4 years, they're pretty stable. And if you look at 25, 26, we are below what we have been in the past 4 years. This is overall utilities. This is gas, electric, and water. And our daily cost is down 12.4% from what it has been over the past 4 years. This is strictly electric. Electric makes up 75% of our cost. Sorry, that's our usage. This is our usage. Our usage we control by staggering schedules, standardizing schedules, the 2 seasons we have out of the year. When the shoulder months is what we call them, when it gets a little cooler, we can start things later. It doesn't take as long to cool everything back off. Cost summary by commodity. This is our electric. Our cost we keep down also by staggering our schedules. Our utility provider hits us with a peak demand charge, like every 15, they look at the whole day. And the most usage in a 15-minute span is what they tag us for. So by staggering everything, you don't have everything coming on at 7 o'clock. You have stuff coming on at 6:40, 6:50, and so on throughout the day. And this is strictly electric. Our average daily cost is down 7.5%, and our daily usage is down 10.4%. I was shocked by this. We looked at the square footage, and if you would have asked me, I would have said we've lost square footage. McGill, we lost 8,000. Sam Houston, we lost 18,000. San Jacinto, 33. Austin, 25. Altaloma, 19. And Carver was 16. But we added back in 35,000, almost 12,000, and Oaks was a big one, 126,000. So we're actually operating 85,000 more square footage space, but we're down on our usage and cost. And that was it.
Well, even though we increased the square footage, we are down.
Yes, sir. We are down.
Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. So.
I just want to thank you all for the work you're doing when we're sitting here looking at how we're going to be able to give employees a bonus at Christmas or, raises or whatever, and then provide for all of our students by giving those teachers and other employees raises and keeping them in the district. Like, these cost savings are huge. So I just want to thank both of y'all for the work y'all are doing to keep those prices down, because it makes a huge impact. These are huge numbers.
Yes,
I mean, but people don't look at that graph, but it's 200,000 is times 1,000 all the numbers that are in there.
Correct.
And so they're big numbers. And so the fact that y'all have been able to do that and even improve on what the outside company was doing for our district, keep up the good work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? Anything else? Daniel, you have anything
Hopefully,
to
Scott,
add?
with some come to the mic, say hello. Hopefully, with some of the new and improved equipment that we're putting up, hopefully, it's going to have some better SCER ratings and stuff like that. So that should help us. Also, probably they're more controllable or more efficient long term. So as we start
Absolutely.
replacing all those those pieces of equipment, that should help too.
Absolutely. And as Scott said, I'm just here and we're diving as deep as we can into everything and seeing how we can tighten things up further and just continue the program and try to improve on it as we go.
Can y'all speak just real quickly about the difference in what we're seeing in the removal of the old controllers across the district with the new thermostats?
Yes. So with the new thermostats, they are giving us improved control, and we're able to see a lot more detail on the usage when things are coming on. And rather than having just a more set schedule, we're able to actually look at when it's actually being turned on, and then we're able to adjust from there. And that allows us to do even more, a better job of the staggering and things like that, because we have individual control at each unit in that way. So that has definitely helped us out greatly.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. As promised, and as was given to us in our Friday Facts, thank you, Dr. Gomez, for all the work getting that into our Friday Facts 2 weeks ago?
Yes, sir.
2 weeks ago. I just want to, I know that was a lot of work to get it to us that quickly. So before you give us this presentation, I just want to thank you and your team for getting that to us, because I think it probably is the fastest we've ever gotten map data ever. So,
Maybe.
So thank you.
Well, I want to start off, and I want to thank both Scott and DJ, because I was messaging them very early this morning, so I want to build on their presentation. And as some of us were speaking about, I'm wearing this shirt that's Learning Palooza, designed by our very own creative genius, Jack Wilcox, in the back. But today's just one example of many, as yes, we're going to go over EOY data, but everything we do has intentionality. So we're going to talk about these goals, but truly before 7 a.m. I was messaging both of them. It's the first morning we've almost been at 80 degrees by 7 o'clock, and you can definitely feel it in those buildings. So thank you, and it goes a long ways. Now, I know the controlling for being more strategic, but it also, there's no happy medium in a schoolhouse. It's cold or hot. And we had over 70 sessions today, and the fact that we can control a little bit without me having to email or text or call you every time also goes a long ways for really the best learning environments we can have for our adults and our children. So again, kudos. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Scott. Also, if Robert was here, I would thank him, because they never deny my messages. So with that, we will start the official presentation for our end of year. And specifically, we'll address Goal 3. And I know that you all have the data. However, just to start off, I want to recap there that when we set this goal, it was very ambitious. In fact, when I had conversations with Dr. Moran, he said, okay, this is a lofty goal. And I said, we can do it, but we've got a lot of work to do. So I'm proud this evening to share with all of you the work of our staff and our students that we actually exceeded Board Goal 3 for our MAP growth. And as we go along, I'll talk about that further. So I know that this is by campus. The one I wanted was the overall. Can we skip? This is the school improvement. It's okay. We have several of these. I've broken them down for you by our school improvement campuses. While she's pulling that up, let me talk about the overall for our math growth. So when we talk about MAP, we're talking about math and reading language arts. So it's a reminder that we start this in second grade for math, and we go all the way down through Algebra 1. So as we pull this up for you, you will see that we had RIT growth ranges from an increase of 3.3 all the way to an increase of 9.3 points across grade levels. But what's really important in all of our presentations, if it's Dr. Brandon, Dr. Moran, or myself giving a report, when we keep cohorts of students, we maximize growth. When our mobility and we don't keep, they're just in grade levels, but then they're bouncing around, we see that in our data. So that's why we're sharing that. So in this report, you have both the grade level gains and the cohort gains. And in grade levels, yes, we did have significant increase, but the cohorts, you'll know we like arrows here, will show how cohorts of students have progressed and gone up through the years. So some of our cohort growth gains, our greatest cohort growth gains were in elementary, which is exciting. For the first time ever, the district is aligned. Kindergarten through Algebra 1, we will be adding geometry and Algebra 2 as well for next year. And with those cohort gains, we had increases up to 7.7 in our RIT scores. So I'm going to just keep talking, and then I'll show you the slides here. I can always talk about data. So in RLA, now, while I'm proud to report our growth, what we have to consider is this assessment tool is reading only. When we talk state assessment, it's reading and writing. So even as we're going along throughout the school year and we're having conversations with our staff, we always have to point out our map is only for reading. Also, I want to highlight today, in professional learning, in day one of Learning Palooza, Mr. Kallenbach, he did a presentation on RIT growth all around this very thing, and we had great teacher attendance. So it's just important that we clarify the assessments themselves. Yes. In reading, though, going back to that, again, we see the greatest growth in those cohorts. And we did also have several grade levels showing increases exceeding 30 percentage points. So because I've been talking about MAP, and because that's how we specifically wrote the action item, I included in there for you our earliest learners for CLI and M class. I'm going to pass those right now, though, just because I really want to highlight this piece. Okay, here we go. Thank y'all. I'm sorry. No, I send you a lot of charts. I apologize. It's okay. All right, so this is your math growth. And again, I want you to notice those grade level gains. Those are a positive. But really, when we look at the cohorts, our goal is to enroll students and keep the students in the district with us and follow those cohorts throughout the grades. Let's see. Sorry, there are several of these. Okay, I'll stop and take just a minute on this column here for our math meeting or exceeded projected growth. So it's super important that students are involved in the process too, because when you're talking RIT and growth, you have to put it in terms that are manageable for both the teachers and the students. Also, many of our sessions today focused around meeting your growth. That's why we feel so strongly about MAP. Not saying anything about state assessment. State assessment, though, is grade level. If you're in this grade, this is what you're expected to do. Where for MAP, it's based on each individual student, and every educator can stand behind that. If they're gifted or if they're students that need additional accommodations and modifications in special education. So when we look from the beginning of this school year to the end of the school year, you can just look at those percentages of students meeting or exceeding their growth. All the way down to Algebra 1, which I know that we've had a lot of conversations since this is, last year we piloted the new curriculum with Algebra 1 before full adoption this year. It is a reminder that in 8th grade, those are your advanced students taking algebra. It's also, next week I'll talk more about state assessment. So it's not unique just to our district, but when we're talking state assessment, the way the state has accelerated math testers, 7th grade math does not include those advanced mathematics students. So you are seeing that difference between MAP and state assessment. Okay, I've done a lot of talking about math. I'm going to pause and see if you have any questions about just the meeting or exceeding growth. No? Okay, reading. I know I just gave you an overview, but again, on the far right, it shows you those grade level gains, which are very positive. I just want to point out our goal is the cohorts themselves. And then again, to clarify, that MAP is simply reading and does not have the writing component. Any questions so far about reading? Okay, I know that I went quickly through that. I wanted to catch up what I had said. What I already sent you does include, I know we like the visuals here, so you can see the observed growth in comparison to the projected growth. And as you look at the 2 years of data there, you are seeing that observed growth has gone up, which is a positive. So what we're seeing through these MAP end of year scores or their scores, is meaningful improvement. It's just another way to look at it. Again, for second grade, this was the first year that we tested second grade on MAP.
Dr. Gomez, can I ask you a question on that last slide? Do we have data on what national benchmarks are for the percent of kids who met or exceeded growth? Like when it's great, we're at 70% or meeting or exceeding growth. Is that good nationwide, or is that you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. So that's where the RIT ranges come in, and that's why we prefer MAP over. Nothing against state assessment. We're accountable in all ways, but that's the difference in the fact that your RIT gives you that national comparison. So, great question.
So our diamond bar sheet.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure this is when we look at what expected the diamonds.
Correct.
And I know we've been doing diamonds for a couple years now, but the diamonds,
sir.
That is the national expected growth, not what our kids were expected to grow based on where their scores were.
That's your grade level norm projection, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, in full transparency, I will say so far our STAR data is still raw. I know for community, people want to know, how did you do on your STAR data? This is the first year where our projected proficiencies from MAP did not directly align with our raw data in STAR. So we are still working through that. In fact, when you first get your STAR data, you get yes, no, like what level. But we also had missing students, so it's too early to be able to share. We will be able to give you an update at next Monday's meeting. Also, if you remember from the beginning of the year and the middle of the year, we discussed how MAP, for the first time since COVID, re-normed in the area of math because it's on that whole national average in that span, not only to our state, and they had not done that since COVID. So we do look at these proficiencies, but really the biggest tell will be when we're able to compare it to those STAR results. Even next Monday, things won't be 100%. I know that you all are aware that everything final with STAR comes out August 15th, but we will still have cleaner data where we can share updates with all of you. Okay, I wanted to go through here. EOCs. Parents will get EOC scores this week. It's important that you all know that, but it's also, this is what is confusing because parent access varies. So parents of students in grades 3 through 8, they will not have scores this week. It's only EOCs. Also, when we say our data is still very raw, for EOCs, you have to go back through first-time testers, retesters, and look at all of that data. Okay, so the slide that I will give you the visual, I'll send it to you in Friday Facts, goes back to this very first in our goal itself. I'm sorry, I'm clicking through here quickly. There's a lot of slides. To that goal 3 that I started off when I said we actually have exceeded our goal. And so our goal for RLA was an increase of 8%. And so for grades 2 through 8, reading English 1 and English 2 by 8%, our increase is 11.3%. Then for math, for grades 3 through 8 in Algebra 1, the goal was for 10%. Our increase, depending on how you break up the data, and we broke it up both ways, from grade level measures, the increase was 28.9%. For cohort measures, 30.2%. The impact of having alignment and even a resource, which a resource does not replace a teacher. We all know that, and the most important consistent variable is that teacher. But an aligned resource in and of itself helps not inadvertently create gaps and holes in the curriculum. And the fact that now we are fully aligned kinder through Algebra 1 and next year adding on geometry in Algebra 2, we're seeing that benefit in the area of math as a whole.
Questions for Dr. Gomez?
Farrah, do we know what resource we're going to use for geometry and Algebra 2?
It's the Bluebonnet resource.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only way we can be aligned, Ms. Duncan, because that's the resource that we have for K through high school.
So they will, they've gotten the book and they're already...
They have not yet. The state just allowed us to start submitting orders. They will have resources when we start the school year, and they'll have training. So as you recall, we were very strategic in that training, especially with Algebra 1. Piloting that last year, and then teachers had training. So they will have the same training and coaching support that we had for the other areas.
So are we going to pilot it?
We're not piloting it because we already have the aligned resource. We do not have an aligned resource for geometry. It's really difficult we have, as you all are aware, we have one secondary math IC for grades 6 through high school. And so for her to support in geometry PLCs or to support in classrooms is very difficult when teachers are using multiple resources. So geometry, we must dive in. While geometry and Algebra 2 do not have an EOC course, it's very important for ACT and SAT, as you're a secondary math teacher and you know this. So we must have that aligned resource. Algebra 2, we're going to do more of a pilot for the curriculum itself, but geometry, we must jump all in.
And the geometry and algebra teachers know that they're going to be doing?
They're leaders. No, I don't speak to all of the teachers, but leadership.
That would be a big change for some.
Yeah, leadership at those levels does know.
Yeah. Do you know the slide, Farrah, where it was our retesters? I don't remember which one. It had the not equal sign on it. No, keep going. Right there. Nope, right there.
For RLA?
Yes, that's great. And that makes me happy because our goal is to never have a retester. Wouldn't that be great?
Wonderful, yes.
Yeah. So it looks like, you know, that our retesters knocked it out of the park here. And if you know, a lot of people don't know, if they don't pass this test in ninth grade, they take it until they pass it. So you could be a senior taking a ninth grade English 1 test, which it doesn't get easier. So I love the fact that our little diamonds are way up there. So good job.
Again, a lot to celebrate there. Thank you for recognizing that. Please know I'm not trying to diminish the growth there. I just have to be a realist and separate. This is the reading only portion and does not include that writing portion. So, and I am an RLA person, so please know I just have to say that in full transparency. Well, listen, that is worth celebrating, and you're right, it doesn't get any easier, and we are also fully in the season where we are working with students who will be retesting this month. So, thank you for pointing that out.
Dr. Gomez, when your curriculum team recommended, and Dr. Moran recommended the goals that y'all did for reading and math last July, August, when we approved those, I knew that like that's where we have to get as a district to improve. Like, yes, those goals are lofty, but they were also necessary in order to get where we need to be as a district. And I just want to thank everyone's work. Like, because I know your team's been doing it. I know there's been support on all levels. There's been support from our principals, IC coaches. And like, to get that amount of growth in 1 year on MAP, and I get that there is still other data out there, but to get that growth on MAP, even if we don't quite get there yet with our STAR data, we're gonna get there if we keep doing that growth. So thank you, and I think we need to make sure that, however, as a board, we can recognize all the hard work all of our staff are doing to make that happen. Like, this doesn't happen by accident. So thank you.
Definitely pass that on to them. And the thanks was in a true form today. When you have educators, teachers leading learning for their peers over a resource that they had some questions, which is rightfully so when you're moving to a new resource, but to see them from last time this year to right now and the things they did in their sessions today, that's really telling, and the educators you all approve to work in our district. So thank you.
Dr. Kingman, if I can make a comment as well. Thank you, Dr. Gomez, for your work and your team's work. One thing that I think everyone should remember, we've made it through 2 years of MAP testing. So now we're well on our way to having good data. Number two, this has been our first full year with the full implementation of Bluebonnet. And that has not been easy. I mean, there's a lot to that. As we move along from 1 year to the next, our staff will only get stronger. They're going to become more comfortable with the lessons. The internalization process is going to be stronger. They're going to be more at ease teaching these lessons. And so what I hope to see is that we'll be increasing at an increasing rate, exponentially. The other part of this is really to give a public thank you to our teachers who really worked hard this year. The instructional coaches did a great job of supporting. This work will only continue and will get stronger as we go. But the final reminder is we're not even close to where we want to be. We're seeing great growth, but as you well know, when a student is so low academically and they have tremendous growth, but yet they're nowhere close to passing the STAR test, that's a concern for us. And we've got a lot of kids there. So even though we're seeing growth, we're not going to spike the ball. We're going to be very humble about it because we're just getting started. And where we want to arrive is not to depend on the growth, but when you get STAR scores in a few years, it's academic achievement. Like your passing rates are in the 80s, 90s, and it's across campuses, not just here or there. And so even though we're pleased with growth, and we'll get credit for growth from TEA towards our A through F ratings, we're going to have to transition from growth to achievement at some point. So just those notes, but man, our staff's working very, very hard.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Gomez. All right, next we're going to have an elementary attendance boundaries update, and Dr. Moran's going to take us through that.
All right. Well, there will be a map cast for your review in just a moment, and as that's coming up, a couple of reminders. Last month we presented the case committee's recommendation for the proposed elementary rezoning. You see the map here in front of you, and we've made multiple copies of this, and it's on the website. We've tried to really get the word out to our community. This is for the fall of 2027, just a reminder. So what we're talking about now would not be implemented until next summer. We want to provide families in the district a year to plan, make the necessary adjustments. And remember, we're moving from 14 to 12 elementary schools. To Dr. Brandon's presentation and the efficiencies we heard from our energy guys, about $900,000 a year per campus we close, and that should help us. If we were to build the district from ground up, and if you look at the map, I'm going to try to draw your attention, even though the stars are small, let's see if we can zoom in just a hair. Yes, that's perfect. You're going to see 3 green stars. And one of those green stars is off the top of the screen to the north. We can pull it down just a hair. That's Lincoln. And you'll see that. And then you find Lone Star in the yellow zone, colored green as well. That's Lone Star Middle. And then Glen Middle is right there in the Glenmore zone on the proposed map. But those 3 middle schools, the spacing physically is not great for us. I mean, obviously Lincoln's in prime location for theirs. Lone Star's in the center of the district, but Glen really is not in the southern portion. It's pretty close to Lone Star. And I think that's important to remember as we move forward in our discussion about not just attendance boundaries, but feeder patterns, and that's to come in a few minutes. Part of this plan is to strengthen all of our campuses academically. I think the board is aware that we feel strongly about keeping our GT magnet elementaries in place. Also, the way it's set up now is that you've got those 3 GT magnet schools feeding 3 middle schools. So Fort Concho feeds Glen, Santa Rita feeds Lone Star, and then Holloman feeds Lincoln. And we have no reason to change that. In fact, we think that's logical and that makes sense. So the committee's recommendation that you're hearing and the map you're seeing, really the goal is to balance our elementary numbers and capacity and staff them well. The bond construction will support this long-range plan by expanding capacity at Fannin, McGill, and Crockett. And in May 2025, this is a year ago, if you'll remember, just before the election, we went through some minor boundary adjustments that were adopted by both Wall ISD and San Angelo ISD to clean up some areas of incorrect attendance boundaries. And these are represented on your map on the southeastern portion. You can see in the salmon color there's 2 hatched areas, and those are the areas that both Wall and San Angelo ISD agreed to clean up. And I want to remind the board of what we did there, although I'm sure you remember that all have been approved and submitted. Everything was done right and legally between the boards, between the state, and sent to TEA. We're still waiting on TEA to update the map to reflect what everyone has legally agreed to and our attorneys have said is already done. It's good. We don't have anything to worry about. But I'd like to see that reflected on the map, and I'm sure Wall would as well. I made a friendly call to Russell Dacey just to make sure that he knew, hey, don't get nervous if you see our map. Everything's good. And to remind everyone that no students will be required to change districts. Nobody changes their tax entity for school taxes. The change really is on TEA's map. And so I want you all to know as a board, we're keeping that in mind as we develop this, because as we adopt a map, it might be that in the motion language there's a caveat pending TEA's approval of minor boundary adjustments so that we're covered and those can be made without any further board action.
So you're saying they haven't approved that map yet? TEA hasn't approved the map that?
Everyone has approved it.
Except the TEA.
TEA has not given any indication that it's disapproved. In fact, our attorneys and Dr. Brandon, I kind of look at him because we've been back and forth on this together. We're in agreement that our attorneys have assured us there's nothing to worry about. This has been approved. But I'll believe it when I see the map change.
Yeah. And like you said, there was no changes.
Right.
It was the way we always had it. It's just the TEA had an incorrect map.
Yep.
They had it wrong. And so nothing really has changed.
Right. So we're going to ask the board on June the 15th to adopt the proposed elementary attendance boundaries as presented, with the exception of any minor boundary adjustments approved by TEA. And that's next Monday. There's work yet to be accomplished, and that is to discuss and decide on secondary feeder patterns as we seek to balance the middle school enrollments. It's really middle schools. High schools we're not that concerned about because that's going to happen naturally. But in just a few minutes, Mr. Kalmbach is going to provide the board an opportunity to discuss this effort. And then in July and August, we need to take a deep dive as a board and a community into the transfer conversation for intra-district transfers for students so that families will have that information as soon as possible. So really that's it. It's not, you've seen this map a couple of months. Many of you attended the meetings with the committee. We're not really hearing, even though there might be an individual here or there that is requesting the movement of a boundary, not even based on the committee's approval, but based on their current situation, and that the boundary didn't change in their favor. They're asking for something to be changed, but it's very seldom that we've had that, and it's usually one family. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. If you have any questions, we can blow this map up and expand and look into it if you'd like.
I had a quick question. This was emailed to me, but if a boundary line goes across the street, is that implying that one side of the street goes to one school and then the other side of the street goes to another school? Or is that is it not? Or is that just how it's drawn on the map and the street may all be going to one school?
Let me make sure I understand. It's your question. If the boundary goes down the center of a street?
Like on the map, like you zoom in, like on Grandview, for instance, like over here, does that mean all of Grandview is like, it's truly split down the middle of the street, or is that just visually how it looks on the map?
Well, let's look at Grandview.
Right below Clearview, down between like Bonham and Lamar, for instance.
This street, there's houses on both sides of the
Oh,
street.
okay. All right.
So like you can see how the boundary line goes right down Grandview.
Yeah. So in that case, if it goes down the middle of the street, one side of the street would go to Bonham and the other side would go to Lamar.
Okay, so that's not just a visual thing.
That's an exact drawing of where the boundary separation would be.
Okay.
See if we can, yeah, you're doing a good job there, whoever's driving. Yeah.
Is that where the existing boundary is between Bonham and Lamar?
Yeah, the red line represents the existing boundary, and then the colors represent the change.
So that boundary remains the same as it did.
That's correct.
Before.
Yeah. And that's an important note. Whoever's looking at the map should make the note that the red lines represent current boundaries. The colors represent the proposed attendance boundaries. Well, we're certainly open to more conversation. What we do know is there's no perfect map, and we're not going to make everybody happy. We've really given an honest effort here to be objective and do our best to balance and populate our elementary schools to get good capacity numbers and to keep in mind for future growth at a couple of the campuses, especially Bonham and Lamar, who have a lot of potential for growth. So you might see, well, and I'm certain you did on the data sheet that we looked at last time, some low numbers in percentage of capacity on those campuses.
So yeah, one question I have is on our sheet we had a month ago, some of our special programs were driving capacities up. And I acknowledge I may have missed it in Friday Facts, but I don't believe we've gotten the updated version of that.
We can resend or send. I can't recall, but we'll get that to you. Is that the early education?
Yeah, it was just like there were some campuses at 98%, but it was pre-K was driving that. And we had talked about as a board and as a district where those students would actually be in 27, 28.
Yep.
And so I think getting those numbers would be helpful. I mean, it wouldn't really change. The sheet we had the economic disadvantage and the capacity but really it's just the capacity that would change. So I think an updated version of that, not only for the presentation maybe before we vote next week, but also for if we get that in Friday facts. Because that's the only thing, like there are, when we adopt this, the most recent data sheet we have shows a few campuses at night. And I know that's not the intention, but haven't seen the.
Right. So an example is Glenmore was at 97%, and they had 121 pre-K EE kids assigned to their campus, which are not there right now and will not be there next year. We're actually in the process of working through discussions about where these kids are going to end up. Not to get the cart before the horse, but, if we had an early education pre-K center for the district that we could move those kids to, and if we had a facility that would be available to house those kids, we could relieve all of the campuses and better serve those kids. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just to split them up a little bit better. So we wouldn't have exact numbers for you next week, but we can certainly update the chart and make sure you've got that before the vote.
I mean, I think the chart, maybe just excluding those numbers.
Right.
Because those numbers can be fluid and moved anywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe if we could just look at.
We can do that.
Okay. Yeah, just exclude them totally.
Yep.
Any other questions regarding attendance boundaries?
Can you move this thing down? I'm sorry. So this little square that's going to go to San Jack?
Use your mic.
I'm sorry. The West 11th Street, 9th Street, they're going to go to Fort Concho.
Right there.
So they're going to cross the loop. So the question I've had is, why would that square not go to Fannin? Or, yeah.
So that little area there that you're looking at, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That area that was Reagan was kind of the pinch point at the end of this process. The schools to the north were overcrowded, and we had to
Okay.
give them some relief, and that was the best and cleanest way we could figure to divide them and kind of share the load there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing the why is always good.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions?
Bel Air.
All right. We're gonna, and we'll talk about it when we go through our agenda, but that'll be for an action item next week. And Dr. Moran obviously just talked about that. Mr. Kallenbach, you can talk to us about secondary feeder patterns.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board. What we're going to look at, sort of a continuation from the conversation about the elementary feeders. What's another really important part of this process is how that will all affect middle school in just a couple of years, and then ultimately the high schools after that. So we're going to just take a look at the current state of things in terms of the feeder patterns. That's the left side of this. So you can see which schools are currently feeding to the middle schools. And then you can see once, so in 2027, with the vote on the attendance boundaries, but with the vote already happening in terms of Reagan and Bowie closing, what that does, it presents it's not balanced with the elementary feeder pattern, where you're going to end up having 3 schools feeding to Lone Star and 5 schools feeding to Glen. You can see how in just a couple of years, we're going to have a really unbalanced number. So we're going to need to do something about that. One good thing about having the elementaries all around the same size is that when you move them for feeder pattern consideration, the numbers don't really change that much. That's different than having some elementary schools with like 250 kids and some with 600 kids. You can't really do that. So that's one benefit of kind of having the attendance boundaries attendance boundaries zoned in a way where the schools are similar in size, which will be what happens in 27 and 28. So the next slide I'm going to show you is a chart. It's really a proposal for how to do this and our recommendation with just moving one school from Glenn's feeder pattern to Lone Star's feeder pattern. Ultimately, we'll end up with 3 middle schools that are similar in size. So the recommendation is the school that would flip over is Crockett. Kind of is part of the conversation that Dr. Moran started about the location of Glenn and Lone Star are so close together that it's tricky to get the right school to move over if we're going to just move one school. But I just want to show you first as you're looking at these numbers, just so that we're very clear on what these numbers are showing. First of all, these numbers are the projections. So these are estimates. They're not exact numbers, but they are projections based on residency, based on the map that you're being proposed for the elementary. So if you approve that map, we took those numbers of what those schools will have in them to project out how that will play out with the middle school feeders. So what's important to note, though, with that is that it doesn't really start affecting middle school until the first group of 5th graders go into middle school. Okay, so that explains that I put the years that this will affect in yellow, so you can kind of see when it will start affecting that. So that explains the 26, 27 being, that's we know what we're doing for 26, 27. Kids are going to be able to go to the schools that they're attending, so those are the projected numbers for 26, 27. In 27, 28, these numbers are based on a recommendation that a 5th grader that year, that we draw all these lines and establish all of this, would get to stay at their school, like grandfathered, 5th grade only. So that's why the numbers don't start affecting until the following year. So that's not something that's set in stone, but something that we put these numbers together. The thought being a student has gone to an elementary school since kindergarten, and they have 1 year left when we redraw the boundaries, and we're going to be asked a lot for those kids to be able to go to the school that they had been attending. So just want you to know that that's what those numbers are. The following year in 28, 29 would be the first year that's affected by the rezoning and all of that for middle school. And then each year, it'll take 3 years for the middle schools to have the rezoned numbers in them. So in 30, 31, those numbers then, those shouldn't change moving forward, because the classes coming in they'll be the same as the ones that are leaving. Up until then, though, you'll have classes leaving with different numbers than the ones that are coming in, because those are rezoned. So I hope that's making sense. But in 3031 is when we will fully see the effect on the middle schools. By moving Crockett and evening those out, you end up in 3031 with relatively the same numbers that in all 3 middle schools. Obviously, if you were to leave them 5 and 3, Lone Star would be a lot smaller, and Glenn would be a lot bigger. So there were other questions about which schools might flip. It's just important to know that, because if you have 4, 4, and 4 like this, and they're all similar in size, it's not really going to affect the numbers if it's a different school here or there. But looking at the map and how things are, the recommendation is Crockett simply because of moving just one school. If you do more than that, you're going to have multiple schools flipping. And so, and I don't know if Dr. Moran or Dr. Brandon wants to add to that conversation, but I should stop for questions right here because just want to make sure that everybody's clear on what those numbers represent.
So I just want to make sure so that preserves the GT Magnix campuses, like Dr. Moran was talking about earlier, in each feeder pattern. So that means right now, Fort Concho's feeder pattern is to Glenn.
Correct.
Santa Rita's is to Lone Star, and Holloman is to Lincoln.
Correct.
And so it preserves each of those as a GT Magnet campus for the elementary schools included in this group. So Fort Concho would still be the GT Magnet school for Bel Air, Glenmore, Lamar, and Fort Concho, students zoned to that area. Santa Rita would still be, at this point, the only change to Santa Rita would be the magnet school for, it's already the magnet school for Santa Rita, Crockett, and McGill, and it would include, Santa Rita, Bonham, and McGill, and it would then include Crockett. And then the Bradford, Goliad, Holloman, and Fannin all would go to Holloman.
That's correct.
Okay. What about any other special programs? Are there any others that are, our bilingual program obviously is only on one campus throughout the entirety of the district.
And it stops in elementary, so.
Right. And then our functional academics is only on one elementary school at the moment. Those would all say, at the current time, stay the same with these feeder patterns?
So those programs are at certain middle schools, some of them. So I couldn't speak to whether there's a plan to move any of those programs at the middle schools or high schools. But there are some of those that are specific to certain middle schools because of space and facilities and staff and but it doesn't really, once the numbers get this big, that doesn't really influence the numbers too much with those programs.
And several years ago, Lone Star was over 1,036. It can easily accommodate that number.
I believe it's the largest square footage, like our capacity. Yeah. Another thing to note on the Glen box for 2028-29, it's important to note that we will get, but if this is what we do, we will get to 950, and that is the year that Glen's building is proposed to be able to move into. And it's being built for, I believe, 1,000, I think, is the capacity. Or
I think 1,100 is capacity, but we're targeting 1,000 students.
So, if we couldn't move in right now with it like that. So it's important to note that we can get there in 28, 29 when that is.
And like you said, this affects, obviously it affects everyone, it affects multiple things, but as far as an elementary feeder pattern at the moment, it only flips one elementary school as opposed to trying to flip other elementary schools, and it keeps the elementary zones that are going. Can we show this map? Can we go back to actually, unless you have it,
right.
Dr. Moran's map?
We'll have to switch back. Yeah,
it keeps every one contiguous that's going to you're not jumping over one attendance zone to go to another for your middle school.
Correct. The one that's in question, I guess, would be, and you're always going to have one every time you look at them, as far as, because those two middle schools are so close. But if you take a look at Crockett, there'll be students that live relatively close to Glen that would go to Lone Star, but still, Glen and Lone Star are only 1.7 miles away from each other. So even if you lived right next to Glen, you're still 1.7 miles away from Lone Star.
That's driving the long way.
Well, but if, there is a little section down here, down the south part of Crockett where they would be close to Glenn, but you're going to have that with any. We really entertained every single one of the schools to see which one would be the best. If you think about Lamar is not really an option in terms of location. Glenmore as well, you'd be crossing over Glenn to get to Lone Star that way. The other two are Bel Air and Fort Concho. If you move Fort Concho, you're messing with the GT issue. So now you would have two GT feeder patterns going, or if you flip, so you're looking at flipping more schools if you do that. And then just so that it's very clear that doesn't really affect the numbers, because with the schools all that size, as long as you have 4, 4, and 4, you're good. But then you've got the question of, are we just going to move schools just to move schools?
Well, what was the argument against Bel Air? Because I know you'd be going across Fort Concho necessarily, but they're not really close to either school. So I'm not,
right.
I don't think from a practical standpoint they would have much, I don't think picking a school, proximity doesn't really matter for them. What was the argument against them?
I mean, really, I think proximity is the thing, with Crockett being the closest one to Lone Star is one of the considerations.
I understand that, but you could make a strong point. They're also very close to Glenn as well.
Sure. I think, these are just I guess, proposals that are brought, or people brought up questions on which should go or which one should change. And it can be discussed. Bel Air would be crossing over basically Fort Concho to go to Lone Star, but
it doesn't look as pretty. I agree, but I don't know if, from a practical standpoint, if that makes. I mean, I understand where you are coming from. I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's a great thing to look into, and I think this map, when you blow it up, is eye-opening when you look at our city, to think that in our entire city we have 2 middle schools a mile apart. Yeah. But we can't change that, so we have to work with what we have.
So one thing that would happen if you do Bel Air only, if you switch Bel Air, when you put your maps online, your middle school maps, the Lone Star Middle School map will have 2 sections to it. They're not touching. So and I'm not saying that in a good or bad way. I'm just saying that would be 2 sections to the Lone Star when you draw the middle school map, and then the Glen would go up in between them. So in the other way, it's one area. I'm just giving you the.
No, I know it doesn't look as pretty. I agree.
Yeah.
For us color-coded people, could we get a visual?
Absolutely.
Of
the middle
school boundaries that looks like the elementary boundaries, but with one color link. You know what I mean? Like make one color Lincoln, one color Lone Star, one color.
Yeah. We have those for the current, and we can do them for pretty easily. You just color code all the feeders the same color, and it draws it for you. Right. So not too big of a deal.
If we could get that in our Friday Facts, I think that would be helpful just for a visualization for everybody to look at. And maybe, unless someone has another idea other than the Bel Air, maybe both of those just for people to look at, so we can discuss those.
Okay, for sure. Can you go back to, so there's one other slide on this. It's also very important to note that these numbers are based on residents. So this is without transfers. This is based on residency. So big transfer process, if there was a lot of them, would definitely affect those. Just to show you how that would affect high school, just because that then once you start affecting the middle schools, then it starts affecting high school, but it doesn't start affecting it for several years. So I put on here the 26, 27, we know what those are. But then again, you don't start affecting the middle school or the high school feeder pattern until 31, 32. So I know we're way out. The farther out you get, the more, the numbers are, it's still just the projection. But you do want to look at it because you can make a decision now that in 10 years, we've seen districts do that, and you get 10 years down the road and it's like, whoa, why do we have a problem now? So you just want to make sure that everybody knows what's happening. Again, you wouldn't have the full effect for 4 years in high school. And so you would see this decision that's coming up next week. You're going to see the full effect of that throughout the whole system in 2034 is when you'll see the full effect of it. But it's fine. It looks okay in terms of the numbers being balanced. So,
current 4A and 6A cutoffs are what?
I think we had them. It's.
I've got it.
Yeah, it's 13 something for. Yeah, 1304. Oh.
Yeah, that's right. 1305 to 2214 is Class 5A. And of course, they divide those into Division 1 and Division 2. 4A is 550 to 1304. And Division 1 4A begins at 896 to 1304.
The other thing that I didn't...
6A?
6A's 2215 and up.
The other thing that I didn't mention at the beginning was these numbers are based on our residents and our enrollment now, and does not take into account the projected declining enrollment from the demographer. So this is as if our enrollment continued on and we didn't lose students. So these numbers are likely high because if the projected decline in enrollment, we don't know how many kids are going to leave as compared to how many are going to come, but the projection is that we will continue to decline. So it's important to know that these numbers do not take those projections into account. This is as if we were going to keep having the same number of kids enroll year after year on these.
Other questions?
I have a quick question. Going back to the part of your report where you said that fifth graders would be able to stay at their elementary schools before the transfer happened. If we change one of these middle schools, whether it's Bel Air or Crockett or whatever, could those sixth graders go to the elementary school this year or this fall if they wanted to, so they didn't have to change after sixth grade?
A current sixth grader?
A current fifth grader, I'm sorry, if they're going into sixth grade, because they'd be in sixth grade this year and then have to change middle schools next year for that one school that's going to be flipping.
So the proposal would be, well, there would have to be another decision made.
We haven't got to transfers yet, but I don't think he was saying that anyone who starts at a middle school would have to leave that middle school.
Correct.
He was talking about
So if they start, so like if a kid from Crockett goes to sixth grade this fall, and then we decide that next fall they will go to Lone Star, they'd be able to stay in Glen? Or would they have to switch to Lone Star in seventh grade?
Okay, so you have a fifth grader?
So a child just finished fifth grade this year, and will be starting at Glen next year.
They're going to get to stay.
They stay at Glen?
They're going to stay. Yeah, we're not going to...
Even if the school switches?
Correct.
Well, we haven't made that transfer.
I mean, that's the proposal.
I think his proposal was looking at this year's, going into fifth graders would then have to go to the school, possibly the school they're
right, I understand that. I was talking about...
Our proposal, just to be really clear on that, our proposal is that once a kid starts in middle school, even during this switch and all of that, they just keep going through middle school. It's only 2 more years until they're out. Right. We're not proposing a big middle school shift.
Okay. Thank you. I've had several people asking about that, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and these numbers are based on that proposal. So if we were to do that, and there would be hundreds of students that are on transfers and different things at middle schools that we would be saying, okay, for 1 year, you got to go back. That's not what we're recommending. Yeah. Yeah.
Other questions?
I don't have a question, but I say, listening to all that, bless you, Michael, for going to keep up with all that. So you and whoever else is going to do that.
We'll be keeping up with it and answering phone calls, which is fine. Like we want, we want people to call because it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So.
And I now understand why I missed myself. So just to reiterate, if you start at a middle school, you get to stay at a middle school.
Right.
And even when we start talking about transfer policies, that's why these numbers on this page, that's why the numbers don't even out yet, is
That's
because
correct.
you're projecting for them to stay at their middle school.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's why
So I
they
just
don't.
want to.
Right. Yeah. Because if we did it the other way, we could fix the numbers right away. Like they would go real. Yeah. We're not doing that for high school either. We're not trying to tell a junior or a senior. Correct.
You start at that feeder pattern, you stay there until it ages out.
Right.
So then when we look at transfer policy, it will be really looking at our elementary schools, and then we will let that trickle up. It's not trickle, I guess, if it goes up. Matriculate. Thank you. Upward.
That's correct. And we will look at the transfer policy going forward for new transfer applicants going forward. But you're right. It'll be an elementary conversation when we redraw those lines.
And we can't really have that discussion until we make decisions about capacity based on our boundary lines. So
correct.
Just for our public, our parents and stuff, it's not that we're not trying to make the decision on transfers. But we can't make a decision on transfers until we know what our attendance boundaries are, so then we can figure out what our true capacity is. Same to the comment about our pre-K programs. We can't figure out where they're going until we know what our boundaries are, and then we can come up with proposals regarding those things.
Correct. And you're right. Those have to go in order. But also, we really have to have this conversation about the middle school feeders right after the elementary, because if we make the elementary and then we wait a long time for that, we need everyone to know what will be happening in the future so that they can make good decisions now. But yeah, they do have to go in order.
It doesn't make any sense to redraw our boundary lines for elementary schools and not fix our middle schools at the same time.
Correct.
We have to, if we're going to, let's rip the Band-Aid off and fix it all at once. But in a staged, matriculating sort of way.
That's correct. Yeah. It's the best of everything. It's just the best.
All right. Any other questions from Michael or Mr. Cuomo? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We do have 2 action items tonight. Ms. Doyle is going to help us with the approval of the purchase of Lightspeed products. And this was also in our Friday facts.
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Moran and members of the board. We currently purchase Lightspeed for our filtering and our it's called Alert, so it monitors for concerning activity and alerts designated campus and district leadership if there's like self-harm or harm to others. In addition, we purchase a product called Land School that our teachers use to monitor their students' Chromebooks in their classroom, what they're doing and what activities are going on. And then we've been paying for a product called JAMP to manage all of our iPads across the district. And so every year we review what products we have. We look to see if they're still meeting our needs, and we look to see if there's ways that we can save money. And so my technical support manager explored options and found that Lightspeed, the company, offers an MDM or mobile device management solution, as well as a classroom program or module. And so we explored that. We had some teachers try it out. They were okay with it. It met their needs and is similar to the Land School product. My staff looked at the MDM and are pleased with it. And so by changing to Lightspeed for all 4 products, Lightspeed will offer us a bundled discount that will come out to about $25,000 less than if we are purchasing the products separately, meaning the 2 from Lightspeed and then the other 2 from other companies. In addition, Lightspeed will provide us 2 other modules of programs that they have. One that will help us find if the devices are lost, and the other that will help us to see how much usage is on the different applications that we use across the district, so that we can know if they are truly being utilized, if there's if we need to look at replacing them with something else or not continuing them at all. So it could potentially be a cost saving, help us with cost savings in the future. The reason I come to you tonight is, one, it's above our threshold of purchasing cost. It is in my budget, so it is already a budgeted item, but by going to Lightspeed as a bundled product, it will save us money. And I'm asking for your approval tonight because we need to get it ordered, configured, and then we have to touch every student iPad before school starts to have change from the Jamf MDM to the Lightspeed MDM to have everything ready for school to start. And my staff are ready to do that, but that's why I'm asking for approval for tonight. Is there anything I can answer for you?
Any questions? Do I have a motion regarding the purchase of Lightspeed products?
I'll make a motion. The administration recommends the approval of the purchase of Lightspeed products, Filter, Alert, MDM, Classroom Signal, and Digital Insight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion from Mrs. Duncan, a second from Mr. Dindal. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next, we're going to consider guaranteed maximum price with Lilos Construction for package 1 at CHS. Dr. Brandon.
As part of the bond, 2025 projects, Lee Lewis Construction was selected as the contractor for Glenn Middle School, Central High School, Lakeview High School construction projects. During the design phase of Central High School construction and renovation, it was determined that a 20-inch water transmission line was located under the area planned for construction. Conversations with Lee Lewis, Park Hill Architects, and the City of San Angelo came together, developed a scope of work. That scope of work was put out for bid with the scope of work to be completed by July 31, 2026, so that we could have everything completed before school starts. You see within those documents the proposals. $2,841,464 will be a complete reroute of that 20-inch water line, transmission line, around the north side of Central. We've looked at those maps of where they connect. The city has approved the plans. SKG Engineering was part of those conversations, so that will all come together. They'll have it all in place, and then with everyone on site, and I think some help from a firm out of Houston, they'll try to make that switch in one day to hook everything up and have water flowing again, is the hope by the city and our hope as well. So there, not only is it the 20-inch water line, but you can imagine all water lines that are connected to the 20-inch water line through the campus have to also be rerouted back out to that 20-inch water line. So re-pour the concrete, redo the asphalt. So it's a big project. That's why you see that type of price tag. But we come to you this evening asking for your approval and delegate authority to the superintendent or designee to finalize and execute the guaranteed maximum price amendment in the amount of $2,841,464 for package 1 Central High School water line reroute.
And Dr. Brandon, that does include all the reconnects for all the buildings on campus?
Yes, sir.
Right now, okay.
And that comes out of bond dollars?
It is.
And it's budgeted bond dollars?
It is.
So you're going to abandon the old tunnel line, the tunnel line that exists over there now that connects a lot of those? They're going to abandon the tunnel?
This one ran under the building.
Yeah.
It was, that 20-inch line was already, sorry.
Yeah,
The
it's
20-inch line was already there when they built the campus.
Yeah, it's outside of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right.
Well, it comes into the tunnel at one point, I think, on the other side, but it's
any
not
of
lying
our
in the tunnel.
current buildings be affected for next year with this?
No, sir. The reroute is purposefully to miss all other existing structures. And that was one of the big asks. 20 years from now, don't ask to
Move it
put
again.
a structure on top of it.
Right.
So I think we can make sure we avoid that in the future.
Perfect. Do I have any other board comments or questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to delegate authority to the superintendent or his designee to finalize and execute a guaranteed maximum price amendment in the amount of $2,841,464 for the PKG 1 Central High School water line reroute.
A motion from Dr. Mills and a second from Mr. Dindal. Any further board comments or questions? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. All right, we're going to go through our proposed agenda for next week. Invocation pledge recognitions will be indoor percussion. Update will be from KFW. Academic programs, Dr. Gomez said we're doing STAR. What preliminary data? Consent items will be pre-agenda workup, the delegate and the alternate for TASB, and the library book purchase. Action items. You want to talk, Ms. Doyle, you want to talk to us about our intercom system? Thank you.
Good evening again. So each of our campuses has an intercom system that our campus administration uses to communicate across our campuses. Lamar has our newest system, which is more than 20 years old. Now, we've replaced components across our campus systems, but as far as a whole system as a whole, that's our newest system because that was the last new campus. So they are aging. We are struggling to keep them working because of their age, and it's getting harder and harder to find parts. So as part of the bond project, the project included replacement of the intercom systems as part of the safety and security category in the bond project. So we worked with Crux Communications, and they helped us design an RFP to go out for bid to replace the intercom systems. And this would include digital signage in each classroom. So not only do they hear what the principal is saying, but say there's a lockdown, it would say lockdown on the panel. Or if there's a fire, then it could say fire, and it could even direct them what direction to go. It will also have the capability to integrate with other systems. For instance, our access control system. So for instance, if the campus goes into lockdown, then the access control system can trigger over to the intercom system and make an announcement. So we appreciate Crux. This was a complex project to put together. So they helped us design the RFP. They literally walked every one of our campuses, noted where current intercom speakers are, what needs to be replaced, what can be reused. And we went out for bid. We received 2 responses, Elite Solutions and Soltaire. We have experience with both of those vendors. And Soltaire came in much lower than Elite Solutions did, both in their price and in their project timeline. They do a variety of sizes of projects. And he even told us, Jason and I, and David, my network telecom manager, that they have a team that is working on the data centers in Abilene right now that will be finishing up here pretty soon. And they're planning to relocate those teams here and get started on the project here as soon as we get the contract signed. We have a timeline that we need to get Central High School done by September or by mid-September, because in October the building where the current intercom system is located will be demolished as part of the construction project. So we have this all timed out, and we have a game plan in place. But the whole project as a whole, we have a target of November. And Jason talked to him today, and the guy was like, "Would you be okay if we finished even earlier than that?" And we're like, "Oh yes." So, but I want to note that this construction or this bid does not include Glenn, McGill, Fannin, and Crockett, because their intercoms upgrades are built into their construction project. So they will be taken care of as well. Theirs is just built inside of their construction project. So the game plan is to address all locations in the district and get everybody upgraded and get them on new systems that will last for many years to come. So we did have a committee that scored the bids, and Solitaire came out with our highest score. And so in your packet, you see the breakdown per site, the cost per site, the timeline estimated per site, and the company does plan to have multiple teams on site to get the work done in a quick manner. And so I ask at the next board meeting, not tonight, for your approval of the project. $3,135,000 and sorry, I didn't say that right. $3,135,295 plus $100,000 contingency. And the one thing that is not on there, but we will add before the next school board meeting, is there will be a cost for their performance bond. It will be slightly under $50,000. So we will add that, and we'll have that updated for you for the next school board meeting. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
And this, sorry.
Charlotte, on those 4 campuses, was it McGill, Glenn, they're all gonna have their, are they gonna be?
They'll be the same system.
They'll be the same system?
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually have done McGill. Phase 1 included this actual system. So we installed it in phase 1 to try it out, to see if we liked it, if it met what we were expecting. We did an extensive looking at different systems with the help of Crux before we ever designed this bid. And we looked at several different brands and products and talked to other districts. And Crux also reached out to contacts that they had, and this product came back with very high regards, and their abilities to integrate with other systems was much higher than some of the products we looked at. And we've been pleased with the phase 1 that got done at McGill. And Solitaire did phase 1 of McGill.
And this comes out of the safety and security portion of the 2025 bond?
Yes, sir.
And it also connects taking the alternate bid too?
Correct.
Okay. Only thing else, I think it's important that people realize when we're approving these big numbers, and we're also talking about our deficit budget, that there's the 2 buckets, and we just need to keep reiterating that, like, we can't this is money that is approved for safety and security by our public to do safety and security projects at our campuses. We can't move this money to give teachers raises or do anything else. This is only can be done for that. And so we want to be conscientious with the money we have to do the things the right way to improve everything. But just for our public, just know we can't use these dollars in the other bucket. So,
technical question: are we even allowed to approve the higher bid if we wanted to?
No.
Yeah. So this is really just a formality, right?
That's kind of a Jason question.
It's greater than the percentage is too high to.
Yeah, there's such a significant cost difference.
There's a substantial,
yeah. As well as the other vendor would take almost a year to get the job done.
So we still have to vote on it, though. That's correct. Okay.
Anything else I can answer for you?
It's a big number, and it's a bond project. Let's keep it as a regular. Everyone good with that? Or do y'all want consent? Okay.
Thank you.
Regular consent? Regular? Okay. All right. How about, Marty, you can help us with, or who's doing, Jason acted like he was standing up. Who's doing Lakeview High School science wing roof replacement? It's Pedrick. Sorry, Jason just looked like he moved in his chair. I thought he was.
Good evening. The roof of the science wing at Lakeview High School is in, I will say, desperate need of replacement due to multiple hits of hail. I'm in the process of getting bids. They were due back today at 5, and I will be presenting it to you next Friday. No, on Friday Facts, and I will be presenting it next Monday.
Any ideas, Marty? Any ideas on the total cost, or since you've seen the preliminaries?
Yes, about $122,000.
And my only question is, why is this not part of the insurance claim from when we've done all the other roofs under the hail repair? Why did this roof not get into that claim? Is that a Jason question or a, sorry?
You gotta bring your picture too.
I wish I had it with me, I'd show it. This was not included in the insurance claim because it was deemed that the damage was not hail damage, that it was age from the sun and baking, and then it just gets brittle. There may have been some hail that hit it, but it wasn't created from the hail.
So that was a 2008 build.
2012.
No? The science? Okay, 20, yeah. Okay, so 2012, so we're...
It's about 14 years old, Mr. Dendel.
All right, since we don't have the numbers on that regular, and if we need to get it for Friday Facts.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, appreciate it, sir. All right, so something we've talked about over and over again, which hopefully we can make consent, but let's talk about it one more time. The approval of the medical service agreement with Houston ISD. Brandon.
Consent.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman. For our special education staff was here, they did go through the process last year, interviewing approximately 6 different third-party Medicaid billing services, interviewed each one, looked at the different services they offer, the type of training, what the cost would be to the district, and Houston ISD, which has a segment within their district that does nothing but third-party Medicaid billing, was who rose to the top, who they felt was going to provide the best service for the district. We did have the 1-year delay because of our 1 year left on the contract with MSB, but that would be the recommendation. Very similar pricing as what we've experienced. I think we've experienced from the original contract with MSB, 8 or 10 years ago, 6%. Houston service is 7%. So we'll find that it's very close to what we've been paying all along. We will finish the contract with MSB July 31, that it's not. We've already given notice for termination, and so at this point, we want to secure the services of Houston ISD so that we can begin to send the data, all the records, and they'll begin to develop the training that we'll have in place for August. So we are on a timeline with that. So, on June 15th, our recommendation would be to authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms of the interlocal agreement with Houston ISD for the third-party Medicaid billing services.
Any questions for Dr. Brandon regarding this one? This is something we talked about a year ago, and we've talked about multiple times before that, so I'm okay with consent. Everyone's good? Nod head. Consent. All right, Dr. Moran, are you going to talk about the nomination? You want me to talk? We can make Amy talk about it.
Ms. Amy Mazzell Flint is being nominated to fill the Region 15 seat on the Texas Association of School Boards Board of Directors, and that's an honor. So we're presenting her to the board next week for consideration. If approved, then it will move to the next step in the process, and she'll help represent our region at the state level. And as many of you know, both she and Gerard have been active with that advocacy, and this seems like a natural next step. So congratulations on a nomination.
So I would argue that could be consent, unless someone needs. Y'all can tell me later if y'all don't want it to be on the consent.
Go ahead, we'll do consent, but I declined it.
So we'll make it consent for next week. Okay, and then we've already discussed the elementary attendance boundaries. We're gonna make that. No, I'm just kidding. That's gonna be regular, and San Angelo ISD secondary feeder patterns. We will also keep as regular. Announcements will be our July 13th. We have no reason to go into executive session tonight that we can't wait till next week on. And any questions or comments? All right, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you all.